Welcome to Black Girl Say Something, where this black girl has something to say. And I know it's been a while since I've posted an episode, but thank you to all who have checked up on me. But I had gotten a little bit under the weather, and my voice was so raspy, and I didn't like how it sounded, and I was just like so over it. But here I am checking in, letting you know all is well with me. I also needed to take some time for my mental health. I kind of have been struggling with what's going on at work. There's some change in leadership, and it's poor leadership, poor management, and a lot of micromanaging, a lot of aggression, and I don't deal well in those spaces. So I had to make a conscious decision to, move forward with not re-signing my contract. As many of you know, I'm a professor, and being a professor is on a contractual basis. So not semester to semester, but school year to school year. So that would include fall and spring, and then, you do kind of whatever you want throughout the summer. So considering the fact that I didn't want to be locked in as of right now in April to say I'm going to come back in August, I made the decision to let them know that I won't be returning come the fall. And it seems so far away, but it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know, it just didn't feel organic to me to want to come back, considering everything that's going on. And then amongst other things with the workload and not having help, and the program not even really, the effectiveness of the program kind of leans on me without having the proper resources. And I think this leads into a topic of knowing when it's time to walk away, right? I've had so many experiences in my life. I've had so many things happen throughout my life where I look at it and I said, you know what, if I just hang in there, things will get better. But it's like, honestly, the minute that I decided to walk away from something after 12 years of it not getting better and things immediately started to turn around for me, if it takes a year to figure it out, that's all I got left in me. So all it took was a year for me to figure out things are not getting better and I need to walk away. And that's where I'm at. Aside from that, life has been really great. I got to experience a good friend of mine. I got to experience her gender reveal. She's having a baby girl. And girls are so amazing. Girls are your best friend. I don't subscribe to the idea that when they're teenagers, they're the worst. Typically when people try to have those conversations with me, I'm like, that's not my experience. My experience with my teenager is, essentially I understand her boundaries. And I know when she's having a bad day and I don't push that boundary. I know when she's having a great day, and when she has a great day, I accept the great day. But also I work through her emotions with her. And I think if we can just start seeing our children as people, genuinely seeing them as people, like we know they're people, but if we can just genuinely see them as people who one day are going to be adults, that are going to have to interact with other adults, would you push your coworker's boundary? If you say yes, then you probably are the problem. But if you said no, then you are the solution that your children need, and creating that safe space. A colleague of mine discovered that I had children, and so he asked, how old are they? And I'm like 14 and 10, and he's like, oh baby, how old, like, are they boys, are they girls? And I was like, oh, my daughter is 14 and my son is 9, he'll be 10 in August. And he proceeds to say, oh, I have a 15-year-old, maybe you can give me some advice because, those teenage girls. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I find a little bit of, humor in just not agreeing with people with things that don't apply to me. When I have another coworker, I know one time she was like, she's married, and of course she doesn't know my status or whatever, but it was like, how men can be. And I was like, I don't. And I don't. I've disassociated myself from low experiences of people. I don't want to maintain relationships or any type of interaction with people who are of not a certain quality. And so if someone is presenting to me that they have a certain type of incompetence, right? Like that, I'm not going to entertain that. I even experienced so much in my place of work where leadership did a little activity at a meeting. We had a full meeting, and his point to the activity was, all I have to do is ask the right question to manipulate an answer. And that was a strange thing to say, because it was like, well, what was the purpose of this activity? No purpose, no rhyme or reason. Just wanted us to know that in his place of leadership, he can manipulate responses based on a certain question. And it's so unfortunate, because while I really like what I do, the environment is not conducive to promoting a healthy mindset for me to continue to love what I do, because I love what I do. I don't just like what I do, I love what I do. But again, there's greater things to come. And I know that, because I expect that, because I don't allow myself to stay in experiences that I don't feel are promoting me, are making me feel safe, or I'm even growing. And as somebody who has, again, lived a number of different experiences throughout life, all it takes is a year to recognize really what growth is and how that feels. And so the purpose of my episode today was just to check in and let you know we'll be dropping an episode over on YouTube Friday the 26th at 12, maybe 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, of course. But yeah, there'll be an episode over on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube. I'll put the link in the description of this episode. And I just want to thank everyone that supports Black Girl Say Something. This Black girl continues to have something to say. But in every turn, sometimes I just like to take a moment to step back and see what the outcome is going to be. I'm still waiting for my divorce to be final. I'm still in the middle of that. My children are growing and thriving. Therapy is going well. Things are going great in the midst of everything else that could be going on, that is going on in the world. Things on the home front are well. It is well with my soul. And I am just excited for the next chapter. And at least I can scratch off on my bingo card. I became a professor, and I did that, and I excelled. I've taught over 500 students in this span of a year. I've interacted and advised over maybe 600 students. I've mentored over 20 students in their capstone research. The numbers are there. The interactions with me are ones you're going to remember. And while the one thing that I could say came from this person who I don't regard as great leadership was, oh, we have to put in a request to HR for a new faculty member. But the funny part about that is, he said it's not going to be a replacement because you can't be replaced. And you know what? I'm glad you know that. I really don't know what the fate of there is going to be, but I know the fate for me is one of greatness and one of relevancy, and one that I'm not looking to be just a pillar or a scapegoat when things go wrong. That's not my mission. And when goals don't align, the one thing that I can remember in my doctoral learning of leadership, conflict in leadership and in conflict resolution, two things that were synonymous in those two classes are, in leadership, you have to be able to listen to understand. Most people think they have communication skills because they can talk, but many people lack communication skills because they don't know how to listen to understand. Hearing is one thing. Listening to understand is a different thing. That's what I learned in leadership. In conflict resolution, there's two types of conflict. There's internal conflict and external conflict. And most external conflict derive from internal conflict, and it's like a vicious cycle. But when goals don't align, that also creates conflict. And so while two people or a person versus the organization might have similar goals, if the goals don't align, there will be an external conflict, creating an internal conflict in that person not being satisfied in not meeting goals. Because the whole purpose of everything that we do is setting goals and meeting them. And if you are setting your goals and you're not meeting them, especially when you're striving for your goals, there's one thing I know, there's people who set goals and they don't meet them because they don't strive for them. As somebody who's very goal oriented, I set goals and I strive to meet them. And when you're striving to meet them, but you're not in an environment that is conducive to achieving goals, that is a conflict. And that's not just specific to the organization that I was a part of, but it's specific to every area of life, honestly. With that being said, I thank you all for tuning in. Remember, you can tune into Black Girl Say Something wherever you listen to podcasts. I encourage you to revisit some episodes in moments where you need some clarity and some realization. One of my favorite episodes is Settle versus Content, because that realization really hit me like a ton of bricks throughout my journey. Thank you for listening.